What's up, everybody?
What's up, everybody? Happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday. Happy Thursday. Make sure that you are sharing this. If you're watching the replay or if you're watching live, hit the share button so that you can share this. We're going to get right into this. Let me move over. Do you need to move over a little bit?
Do
No, I
I?
need to move over that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Come close. Come close.
So, listen, it's Thursday. So, you know what time it is. It's time for Inside the Relationship. We got a lot to talk about
Yes,
in a
we
short
do.
amount of time. So, you know what? Let's just get into it. Let's just get into it. All right. Let's go.
Let's go.
Get ready for another episode of
Inside
Inside.
the relationship.
Oh, we were saying it together.
Yeah.
Okay, ready? One, two, three.
Inside
Inside the
the
relationship.
relationship.
Let's go.
You're watching Inside the Relationship with Denise and Ollie.
So sit back, relax, and let's talk about all things relationships.
Happy Thursday. Happy, if you're where we are, happy rainy Thursday.
Happy rainy Thursday. So
Actually, I don't mind it.
listen, I'm gonna do this again just because it works now. You know, it's just here we are.
Here we are.
I'm Oliver.
I'm Denise.
And we are passionate about seeing relationships thrive, and you're watching Inside the Relationship. If you are not familiar with who we are authors, speakers, and coaches, and this is one of a few things that happen live. We have another show on Saturday nights called Have a Conversation After Dark, and we would love for you to be a part of that. It airs at 10 p.m.
10 p.m.
Eastern Standard Time. So if you are awake, which most people are, I think, at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, come have some
Barely.
conversation. Come have some conversation with
Barely.
us. It's good conversation too.
It is good conversation.
Reason why it's called After Dark is because sometimes the conversation is a little dicey. Sometimes the conversation is a little taboo. Sometimes whatever words you want to call, but these are all conversations that we believe couples should be having.
Yes.
So come get some laughs, have some good conversation with us. All right.
Yeah.
Listen, I said we got a lot to talk about today. If you saw the graphic, the graphic says the true cost of unforgiveness, and we got a guest that is going to be with us a little later on to talk to us about the cost of unforgiveness.
My.
And listen, there is a cost. Let's be clear. If you got a problem forgiving, there's a cost.
Yeah.
All right. And we're going to talk about that a little later on. But first, let's talk about social media. You know, we always jump in talking about some things that we heard, saw on social media, and today is no different. So without further ado, let's get into the media mixdown. All right. So
all right, what you got?
today's media mixdown is this. I was watching an interview with comedian Michael Blackson. Those of you who are familiar with the world of comedy, Michael Blackson is a well-known comedian. He was talking with Shannon Sharp, and he was talking about the fact that he had just gotten engaged. Now, there's a twist. And this media mixdown is really not so much about, because, you know, a media mixdown is not necessarily about whether we think is right or wrong, as much as, you know, it just is. This is the kind of stuff that's happening.
Yeah.
So Shannon goes on to say, "Hey man, you got engaged?" She was like, "Yeah, I just got engaged." And Shannon's next comment is, "But Mike, you like women." And Michael Blackson goes on to talk about how, yes, I do like women. I like a lot of women. And he looks at the camera and he's like, "Listen, I've cheated on everybody that I've ever been with. If any of my exes are watching right now, yes, I cheated on you. And I lied to you. And I lied so much that I don't even know what the truth is at this point." Wow. Right? Now, that's not the crazy part. The crazy part is he says now, because of that stint of infidelity, he has realized that he cannot be faithful. So now, remember, he said he's engaged now. So because he realized that he cannot be faithful, when he got into this current relationship, He made it clear to the woman that, hey, this is who I am. This is what I'm about. His words, we made an agreement. So the
Made an agreement that he doesn't have to be faithful.
that's not who he is. So if we're gonna be in this relationship, just know that's what this is gonna be. Not gonna be faithful, right? Then he goes on further to talk about how broke men, his words, broke men can't make this kind of arrangement. And this is, and here's why I'm even sharing this media mixdown is because here's what is, it's not shocking to me, but here's, I'm gonna use the word alarming, even though it's not alarming to me, about um the state of marriage and relationships right now.
Yeah.
Is that he said that he talks to a lot of young athletes, 20 something athletes who are making a ton of money. And he said, I always tell them that you making all this money, make the arrangement from now. Line up 10 women, just let them know what this is, what it's going to be. And this is what he said. And this is the whole thing. He said that 80% of those women, if not 100%,
are okay with it.
Would be okay with it. Because of the money.
Because of the money.
He was like, there's no way that somebody's turning that down who's getting all their needs met, who's getting all their bills paid, who's getting all their wants and wishes.
Because of the money.
Is that where we're at right now?
Apparently so.
That's crazy to me.
Me too.
That's crazy to me. And listen, let me just say this. And I know, you know, we're in this age, this soundbite age, where if you say something to women, it's always going to be somebody clapping back in the comments. Somebody, well, what about men? Okay, what about men? But I'm talking to ladies right now. You're worth way more than that. Yeah. You're worth way more than them Birkin bags and them Gucci slippers and all of that other stuff that you would say yes to getting cheated on to get.
Yeah.
That is absolutely asinine.
Yeah. That's very sad. It's a sad times. Sad times.
So for any woman who may run across this, and I promise you, this is going to be a clip. I'm going to cut this out and it's going to go on TikTok because that's where our largest audience is. For any woman who thinks for a second that they should trade their integrity for the bag.
They're worth.
You're a clown.
No, come on.
I mean that. I'm not taking that back. And I know you were going to say something. I'm not taking that back.
Come on. Don't.
That is a absolutely terrible decision on your part.
Don't say that. Don't say that they're clowns, though.
What are they, Elizabeth?
They're people. Come on.
Okay. Whatever she said. Just hear what I said. If you're willing to trade your integrity,
you don't have to say it again.
And I'm not going to say it again. And you're willing to be cheated on so that you can live well, you have a problem.
Well, I wouldn't call it living well. To them, it's living well. You know what I mean?
And here's the next thing. Here's what I hope. I hope that his statistic is wrong. I'm not trying to say it again. I hope that what he said is wrong. Okay. He said that he tells these young guys, if they line up 10 women, these young guys who are making all this money, if they line up 10 women and say, hey, listen, from jump, this is what it's going to be. I'm going to be knocking down all of y'all. You'll be fine. That 80%, if not 100%, would be okay with that.
And you're saying you hope that
I'm hoping that his statistic is wrong. I am.
I hope so too.
But you know what? Sadly,
it probably isn't.
With all of the stuff that I see on TikTok, it's probably not wrong.
It probably isn't. It's wild.
Which means there are a whole bunch of women out here who, so that they can look rich, and so that they can have all this money, and so that they can go on these trips, and so that they can be hanging out with the A-listers, they were willing to trade their integrity and get cheated on.
Yeah.
Just so that they can get that.
That's wild.
That's foolish.
It's very sad. Sad times.
That's foolish. That's foolish. And this is where people are going to fight me. And then certain women wonder why they get treated the way they do and why they don't get respected. That can't be your mentality on one end of the spectrum. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you tell me that I got to respect you.
Well, okay. I'm just thinking often these women, there's issues, like they have issues as to why they feel that they need to be this way. It's not necessarily only because they want all of these material things. Like literally, they may have some type of emotional issues, some type of trauma or something that they've experienced in the past. And maybe I'm not saying it's right, obviously, but maybe this is just their way of coping with it, with whatever they have not dealt with, whatever they have not gone to counseling for or therapy for. This is just how they cope with it.
Okay. I'm with you.
It's not always just because they want the material things. There's something going on.
There's something going on. Okay, I'm with that. I'm with you. I'm with that. Now here, I'm not going to take back anything I said, but based on what you just said, I'm going to say this. Here's what you need to know. You need to know that that's not right. And if you feel like if you're somebody who feels like you should trade your integrity for that, then there is something that you need to check out first before you do that. You need to get some counseling. You need to talk to somebody. You need to explore something else before you actually jump into that arrangement.
Yeah.
Because that arrangement will forever categorize you
as that woman.
And you don't want that.
Yeah.
Because if healing and transformation does come to you down the road, it will be very difficult for you to present yourself in a different light.
Maybe.
Listen, the thing you're going to get from me is the truth. It may not always come out right, but it's going to be the truth regardless.
Lord Jesus.
It's going to be the truth. So that's the media mix down for today. Hopefully Michael Blackson is incorrect, but in the event that he is correct, just know that that's not a fair trade-off. Your integrity and your willingness to get cheated on just so that you could be with a dude that's rich, that's not a good decision.
Yeah.
Let's just be clear about that.
Yeah,
listen, if you got any opinions on that, you want to fight me in the comments about what I said, go ahead and do so in the comments. If you have a media mix down that you would like us to talk about, shoot us an email. They say, hey, listen, check out this video. Send an email to this email that's on the screen right now, and we will make sure that we mention the media mix down. All right. So listen, let's get to this next segment because I want to get to the marriage minute because we got a great guest for the marriage minute coming up. So let's get into the question of the week. Let's go. All right. So here is the question of the week.
Question
for this week.
Of the week.
Oh.
Where is it, babes?
I clicked on it. It didn't come up.
Here we go. Okay. How do I get my wife to trust me? She calls me 20 times a day at work. She always wants to check my phone and jumps to conclusions about everything. How do I convince her there's nothing to worry about? That's a loaded question.
Loaded.
I guess my first response or question back would be, does she have a reason not to trust you? Like, where is this mistrust coming from? It seems a very lot.
A very lot.
So where is that coming from? I guess would be my first question. Yeah, what you got?
I mean, that's a good place to start. You know, is there cause for it, whether it's on his side or not? There's obviously cause for it. Right. Now, either that cause is something that he did, which there's no context here.
Right.
Or the cause is something that she's experienced in the past.
Yes.
Right. I watched a video recently where this guy was illustrating how it's difficult when someone has a past that has been traumatic. It's difficult for them to not punish the new person.
Right.
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 And he was just saying how, man, I let you check my phone. Same kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I let you check my phone. I let you do this. I let you do that. I tell you this every 2 weeks. I say the
Yeah.
same thing. It's been 3 years we've been together. I've never cheated,
Mhm.
never done da 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 da. But you still can't. And he really broke it down in this video. He was like, you still can't get past what your father did to you.
Wow.
You still can't get past what these exes did to you. You still can't get past the fact that your mom chose men over you. Like, he listed all this
Wow.
stuff.
Sounds
Right?
like they need therapy. She in particular, but they
Right.
need therapy.
So the answer is to how do I get my wife to trust you? The answer really first lies in answering some other questions in terms of what is the root cause of this. If the root cause is something you did, then you need to now begin to rebuild trust little by little.
Yeah.
Rebuilding trust often almost always involves some level of consistency. So you need to now set some benchmarks that you can be consistent in. Hey, I'm gonna be home at this time, or I'm gonna be home during this period of time, or I'm gonna check in with you at this time, or whatever it is, and be consistent in that area. So that you can build some level of trust in that area. And as that consistency builds, then there's some level of reassurance that builds. As that reassurance builds, there's some level of the trust begins to build when the reassurance, it becomes consistent, right? If it's something that she went through, and we're answering this kind of quick, I know, but if there's something that she went through, counseling is a necessity.
Yes.
Hands down.
And if she's received therapy before and this is still happening, maybe she needs to try it again. Maybe a different therapist. Sometimes you got to keep trying until you get the right fit.
Sometimes you do. Sometimes you may need to go just dump everybody else and go see our guest. How about that? That just go see our guest, because our guest might be able to help with that. Well, we'll get to him in just a second. Now, let me say this. Regardless of what end of the spectrum this is on in terms of the root cause, consistency is going to be necessary. Now, I'm going to say something that some guys are not going to like to hear, right? If your woman is healing and is intentional about her healing journey and her transformation, you may have to eat them 20 calls a day until she gets comfortable.
Yeah.
And a lot of guys will want to fight me on that, but that it just is what it is. If you love her and she's working, I'm not saying this is a crutch.
Right.
I'm saying if she is working and she's intentional,
she's doing the work
about the transformation, then just know the 20 calls ain't going to be for your whole life. So you may have to eat that right now, in the name of consistency and in the name of reassurance and in the name of support.
In the name of reassurance. And I would say too that having to eat those 20 calls a day, like you said, it might be that you only answer the phone, but just be like, babe, I just wanted to answer the phone to let you know, I'm here or whatever, but I'm really in the middle of something right now. Maybe I'll call you back, but just make sure you answer the phone.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe
you might have
to make some adjustments in that way.
You might have to.
Instead of a phone call, maybe she needs to see your face. Maybe a FaceTime call.
Right. So you may have to make adjustments, but consistency is going to be necessary no matter what the root cause is. If it's something you did, or if she's in the healing process based on something that she experienced.
Yeah.
Right. Over time, that reassurance, that security that's being built, that support that is consistently there emotionally, physically, spiritually, psychologically, as that builds, because here's the thing, and I say this all the time, trust is like a high-rise building. You can cleverly place some charges around a high-rise building and bring that building down in 60 seconds. I don't care who you hire in the universe. They ain't building that bad boy back in 60 seconds.
Yeah.
So there's going to be, and building requires some level of consistency.
Yeah.
You can't, if you start building something today and you leave it and don't come back to it for the next 3 years,
Right.
you could have been 3 years further ahead if you had kept going.
If you'd have kept going. Yeah.
So it's the same thing with trust.
Mhm.
So those 20 calls just might be the segment of the building process that you're in right now.
Yeah.
But it won't be the segment that you're in later on if you remain consistent.
Yeah.
So listen, there's not a lot of context, so we can't pinpoint things, but hopefully there's enough there to kind of get you to thinking about some things and doing some digging, and getting some counseling if that is not already a part of this process.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Listen, that's the question of the day. And as we always say, if you have questions that you want us to take a stab at or give our opinion about, you can email your questions to the email that is on the screen, or you can message us wherever you may be watching this right now. Send us a DM and we'll be sure to get that question up and to address it.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
All right. Listen, we're getting into the Marriage Minute segment right now. And in the Marriage Minute segment, we have Dr. Arthur Branner with us. Branner. I always say Branner. It's not E, it's A.
Branner.
Yes, that's just me. I'm talking fast because I'm excited about getting him on here. So let me slow down. This is the Marriage Minute segment.
Yes.
And in the Marriage Minute segment, we're going to be talking to Dr. Branner about forgiveness. So let's get into this Marriage Minute right now. Welcome, Doc.
Hey, thank you. How you guys doing?
We're well, man. We are well. Thank you for being here with us. Listen, before we jump into it, tell the folks who you are and how you serve the world, how much of a wealth of knowledge you are, and how much of a great guy, and let them know everything.
Well, first of all, I just want to thank my favorite couple for allowing me the privilege of being able to join you guys.
Of course.
I'm just me. I just love the Lord. I'm a therapist by day and also a minister of the gospel. I've been counseling for over 30 years and was a chaplain at one time, served in the military for about 14 years. And yes, I'm currently a MST therapist, which is multisystemic therapist. And I serve a population of youth between 13 and 17, and also working with the parents, because we believe that in addressing the whole ecology, both the parents and the youth, you have a greater chance and probability of success. So that's what I do. That's what I love. I love counseling. I love counseling couples. My wife and I have a couples ministry entitled Love Life Coaching Academy, where we coach singles and married couples. And that's really our love. We really love doing the same thing you guys do, and that is coaching couples into their best expression of the marriage covenant.
I love it. I love it. And we'll talk about how individuals can get a hold of you and your lovely wife in a little while. Listen, man, let's dig into this forgiveness piece. There are so many individuals who are struggling with forgiveness in their marriage. They're harboring unforgiveness for one reason or another. And this is an area that you specialize in. And just let's start the conversation just by talking about or maybe giving a definition of what forgiveness is.
Yeah, that's good. I think that's so crucial to begin the conversation, because I think people have oftentimes a misconception of forgiveness. Forgiveness, in order for it to have its full effect, it has two components, right? One is forgiveness from the head. That is me making the decision that I'm going to forgive someone who may have offended me by something they said or did. But that's just only the beginning. And oftentimes, without knowledge, we suffice ourselves to believe that that's sufficient, right? But there's a second aspect and a component of forgiveness that's often overlooked, and that's not just the decision from the head, but it's the experience of forgiveness from the heart, wherein we actually experience a relief from the bitterness the hurt and the pain of what that individual may have done to us. And so often I've seen in marriages where people make the decision, but their heart has not caught up with what their mind has decided, right?
Wow.
So, in many respects, they may say, "Oh, I've forgiven them," but they have all still the traits of the bitterness, the angst, the common irritation that plays out in the relationship so that it never heals.
So I guess my next question would be, and I think I know how you're going to answer it, but let's pretend that I don't know how you're going to answer it. How then does one get their heart to catch up with what their mind and what their mouth is saying, that I forgive you? How do you get your heart to catch up with that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I think it's $1 million question because so often many couples suffer from this, right? Especially Christian couples, because they know on one hand that they should forgive because scripture tells us
Right.
that if you don't, you can't experience forgiveness from God.
Right.
So here's the thing is that I think that the reason why this is a common factor wherein people don't experience it from the heart is primarily because, number one, unfortunately, the church doesn't teach forgiveness in a way that I think it serves the church community and the community at large in the best way. And what I mean by that is we often typically think that forgiveness is something that I must muster up by my own human volition and my own strength,
Yep.
right? But forgiveness is not a human exercise that's put forth by my own volition. Forgiveness is a miracle that comes from God.
Wow.
And so the way that we're able to experience it beyond just the head is that we make the preparation necessary to receive that grace, and then we ask for it, right? So it's like a seed. I always typically like to use the metaphor of a seed. A seed will grow, it will germinate. But the thing that's necessary for it to germinate is that it must fall on fertile ground. So there's some preparation that's needed in order for forgiveness to have that miraculous effect where the grace of God is able to make that change. And essentially, one of the most primary things that's needed that oftentimes people don't deal with is that the very first initial thing that I must do if you've hurt me is that I've got to be willing to admit it, right? For men, it's especially difficult because it means I must be vulnerable.
Yeah.
I've got to come to you and say, hey, listen, what you did, it hurt. It kind of stung,
Yeah.
right? And women are a little bit more easily cultured for that. They love to, talk and actually I teach this among many of the couples that we work with, is that women tend to be in our society more able and susceptible to opening up, to being vulnerable, right? And so if we don't first admit the pain, we're typically in one of three modes. We're either in denial, or we're in suppression, or repression. So denial is flat out saying, hey, I'm fine. There's nothing wrong, right? But all the symptoms of anger and all of the angst is showing up. And our spouses know when there's something wrong.
Yeah.
The second way is suppression. Suppression is, yeah, I am angry, but I don't feel like talking about it. I don't want to communicate about it, right? Denial is saying, there's nothing wrong. I'm beyond that. Suppression is, yeah, I know, but I'm just not willing to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's repression, which is probably the worst of all, which is to repress, to inhibit, to prevent those thoughts of anger or fear from surfacing at all, but it's unintentional, it's unconscious. You don't even know
Wow.
that it's there,
Mm.
right? And so you're not intentionally avoiding it as if you were suppressing it,
Mhm.
but repression is just it's there and you don't even realize it.
Hmm.
With repression, does one still show the outward symptoms, like maybe they get frustrated and irritated and angry and all of that? Does that still show up with repression?
Oh yes,
Mhm.
absolutely, absolutely. And sometimes when people have had some traumatic event that they've not been able to get by, in our profession later on in years, they may have flashbacks,
Mm.
right?
Wow.
Repression is the brain's way of protecting a person from the trauma they experienced,
Wow.
right?
Yeah.
It's a survival mode that kicks in where
Mhm.
the amygdala is fearful of engaging the very thing that caused the hurt and pain.
Mm.
And and so people may go for years not even fully recognizing some traumatic event that takes place, and then suddenly in their later years they start having flashbacks
Hmm.
of
That's
some
wild.
event that took place, and then they realize, wow, okay, this I was actually sexually abused,
Yeah.
and the memory comes back and surfaces.
That is
Hmm.
wild. So fascinating to me.
That is fascinating. We got shout out to Doc Parks in the comments. Dr. Terry Parks is in the comments. He said, "Dr. Branner!" Exclamation.
My
My
childhood
childhood friend.
friend.
Oh, good to see him. Good to hear from him, man.
Dr.
Yeah,
Terry
that's
Parks.
that's that's my brother from another mother. We grew
Aw,
up in the same church.
wow.
Hey, that's what's up. Good
Awesome.
stuff.
Yeah.
We're gonna have Doc on at some point too as a guest on this show for Marriage Minute as well. But yeah, shout out to Doc in the comments. Thank you for being here.
Dr. Parks is our resident therapist on
Yeah,
Saturday
on
nights.
Saturday night. Yeah, you got
Yeah.
for the Saturday night show. Have a conversation after dark. You want to catch Doc in all his glory? You got to come through and check that out.
Yeah.
Come through and check that out. Listen, so with
That's amazing. I just
it
love
is,
this
yeah.
conversation.
So with that, right? And there's so much that we can talk about,
Yeah.
and we won't be able to truncate it into the next 5 to 7 minutes. But what, in light of all that you said,
Mhm.
what is what's the true cost of harboring unforgiveness
Mm,
in a marriage,
mm.
Wow.
and what's the first step? Because there's many, I would imagine. What's the
Mhm.
first step in reversing that?
Wow. I'm so glad you asked that question. In Second Corinthians, the second chapter and verse 10, Paul talks about forgiveness. And he goes on to say that it's necessary within his ministry to forgive those who may have offended him. And he comments in verse 11 by saying, so that Satan will not outsmart us,
Mm,
for we are familiar with his evil schemes.
mm.
When there is a lack of forgiveness, we allow Satan to gain the upper hand in our relationships.
Wow.
Wow.
It's so critical. And I have literally watched couples. And the thing about it is, right, is that oftentimes when this unforgiveness has, not been resolved, it plays out in different ways in the relationship. And no matter what little things you might address in terms of the symptoms,
Mm,
it will never alleviate the problem because you never get to the root.
yeah.
In Hebrews, the 12th chapter, verse 15, the author of Hebrews says this: so so it is that no one falls short of the grace of God, and that no bitter root grows up to cause trouble and defile many. Here, Paul talks about a bitter root. When we allow bitterness to manifest through unforgiveness, and we allow it to inhabit the heart, we short circuit the grace of God from fully operating within the marriage covenant.
Man, that's deep.
So the very thing that's necessary for your relationship, not just to survive, but for the relationship to thrive, we are actually missing out on the grace necessary for our marriage to grow when bitterness exists, right? And Paul says that bitterness defiles. When there's unforgiveness in a relationship, you defile the relationship.
My God.
Now, if that weren't enough, in Matthew, the 18th chapter, Jesus gives this parable about he goes to his servant who owes him money. The servant pleads and asks for mercy, and he gives it. And then Jesus goes on to say that same servant, then now, he has someone who owes him money. But instead of being merciful, he doesn't forgive the man, but instead he inflicts, he has him locked up. Jesus ends the parable by saying that the master finds out that the servant he gave mercy to is merciless. And so then he announces in verse 34, in his anger, the master handed him over to the jailers to be tortured until he should pay back all that he owes. Listen to this. The lack of forgiveness toward his servant caused the master to hand him over to the jailer, who would in turn bring torture. When we fail to forgive, the master has no choice but to turn us over to our own demise and allow us to be tortured by the one who causes us to be in bondage. None other than Satan himself.
Wow.
That's
It's really deep.
So again, there's so much more. I mean, you're not even scratching the surface at this point. We're window shopping through through a curtain that's not see through. We're not even getting a smidgen of this. Let me ask you this in closing, though. For the person whose heart is pricked based on just the little you just said, and was like, "Whoa, Leah, that we can't go down like that." What's the first thing they need to do?
The very first thing that's necessary to begin that healing process is that you've got to come before the Lord, and you've got to what I refer to as catharsis or purging, right? That means you come before God, and I often tell my clients, you can write it in journal form, or you can just orally say it in the form of a prayer. But what has to be done is you have to be brutally honest and totally transparent and talk to God, admitting and confessing exactly how you feel about the person. Right? No, don't sugarcoat it. Don't say, "Oh God in heaven, the one who inhabits the throne of grace, I just am right now and not in the best of feelings toward my spouse." No. You have to be raw and say, "Lord, I can't stand them. And right now, if I think about it too long, I might not be with them anymore."
Right.
Right. And what happens is, by doing so, you make the heart a fertile ground wherein God can now bring the process of reconciliation. Why? Because you first empty the cup of the bitterness
Mhm.
in order for him to fill it with reconciliation.
Yes, so good. So good.
Empty
Yeah.
the cup of the
Mm.
bitterness in order for him to fill it with reconciliation. Wow.
So good.
Yeah.
Listen,
I got one
okay,
question.
one more question.
One
All right.
question, I promise. This is it. I just thought of this. If I have, or does this happen? Should this happen? I've forgiven my spouse. My heart is there. I've given my bitterness to God. My heart and my mind, they've caught up. They're in the same. My heart is caught up to my mind. I've forgiven my spouse. If I think about the offense, would I think about the offense again? If my heart has caught up with my mind, would I think about the offense again? Not to become bitter again, but I think that isn't it just human nature to just think about the
Oh,
offenses again?
good question. Absolutely. Here's the difference though.
Mm-hmm.
When you've healed from it,
Mm-hmm.
the thoughts no longer have a sting,
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
right?
Okay.
I can think about it, and in actuality, you can literally, and I do this as I take people through the 5 steps of forgiveness. A person can literally get to the place wherein when they think about the situation,
Mm-hmm.
God can have such a healing and restorative measure upon the heart to
Mm-hmm.
such a degree that when the person actually thinks about it, they've actually reframed that pain
Mm-hmm.
and understand the grace that God gave you to get through it, so that when you reflect on it, it
Mm.
actually has an effect to trigger the grace of God anew in your heart, and you can experience reconciliation
Yeah, so
over
good.
again anew.
So
Mm.
good.
So, yeah.
Excellent.
That's great. That's great.
Excellent.
Listen, we thank you for just the little bit that you've shared that has been just incredibly powerful.
Well,
For
thank
anybody who's
you for
watching
having
this,
me.
yeah,
Mhm.
and indeed, for anybody who's watching this or watching the replay, we all need to go through this process at some point in our lives.
Absolutely.
I don't think there's anybody under the sound of my voice virtually
That hasn't
who
needed to forgive someone.
right hasn't had to go through this process. And so if this is where you are in your relationship, I urge you to reach out to Dr. Branner.
Mhm.
His website is on the screen. Is there any other way you prefer individuals to connect with you?
No, that's perfect. We also have the YouTube channel Love Life Coaching Academy, but that's where we can be reached.
Mhm.
Excellent. So make sure you reach out to him, and also just to plug this, if you want more of this,
Mm.
and you happen to be in the DMV area, put this date on your calendar: October 12th, Saturday, October 12th. Myself, my lovely wife, and the doc will be at Christian Life Center in Manassas, Virginia. You will see, if you follow us, you'll see a flyer coming out very soon about that. Listen,
If this is any
it's
indication.
going to be transformational. I'm telling you right now. And I said this to somebody else privately, I'm going to say it here publicly. If you come to that event and you leave the same way you came, you didn't care to begin with.
Mm.
And I'm not one of those people who is like, God told me to tell you this and give you all these predictions. That's not what I'm doing. I'm telling you, I've had too many conversations with the doc to know what I'm talking about.
Mm.
This is going to be a transformational experience. And if you come in there looking to leave different, you will.
Mm.
Amen.
That's October the 12th. And so you'll hear more about that in the coming days. All right. Listen, Doc, thank you, man. If you want to hang out with us, we'll put you in the back for a few minutes while we wrap the show up. If you gotta run, that's fine as well. But man, thank you so much again for your willingness to come hang out with us for a little bit.
Thank you. It's
Thank
been a
you, Uncle
joy
Art.
and a privilege. Yes, thank you so much. I'll hang out for a little bit here.
Okay, cool. We'll put you in the back, and we'll be there. We'll be there shortly.
Great.
All right. Listen,
Amazing. Amazing.
good stuff. Listen, I dare say that if you're watching now or watching the replay, you need to send this episode to somebody.
Mhm.
Everybody can benefit from the forgiveness piece. We talked about the cost of forgiveness, talked about a definition of forgiveness, talked about what the cost is on a marital relationship and what's the first step as it relates to turning this whole thing around. So if you need to go back and watch that, if you weren't taking notes, if you need to go back and watch it again,
So
watch it
good.
again, watch it as many times as you need to watch it. And
Mhm.
if you're in the DMV area, if you're anywhere close to driving distance of Manassas, Virginia, you got to be in the place on
So
October
good.
12th, and you will see
So good.
some notifications about that very soon. Listen, all right, let's wrap this show up.
Mhm.
We got one more segment called The Last Word, so we're gonna get into it now.
The last word.
Listen, the last word is simply this: you have to make a decision. You have to decide whether you want to live out the relationship of your dreams or you don't.
Mm.
You have to make a decision that you are willing to make whatever adjustments need to be made
Yeah.
in order for you to realize the relationship of your dreams.
Mhm.
You got to decide that either you're willing to make those adjustments or you're not.
Mm.
We have couples, and I shared this with we have a cohort. We're going to talk about that in just a second. We're literally leaving this show to get on the mastermind call for our cohort that we're doing right now. And I was
Mhm.
telling some of the people that were there for the meet and greet that we had somebody. I'll never forget this, man. We had this woman come to us and say, you know what? I've been this way for the last 40 years of my life. I ain't
I'm
changing.
not changing now.
He's either gonna have to take it or leave it.
Mhm.
And you know me. I'm the same me who was talking in the media mixdown. So my response is, so why are you even here?
Mm.
What's the point? There ain't no point, because if you're not going to change and you don't want to do anything and you don't want to make any adjustments, you have now decided to experience the demise of your relationship.
Mercy.
So you got to make a decision. Shout out to Evangelist Javit that's here. Thank you for being here. Appreciate you. That's the last word.
Yeah.
You simply have to decide, is this something you want or not?
Yeah.
Because if you decide that it is something you want, you may have to stop talking the way you do.
Oh.
You may have to stop acting the way you do. You may have to stop treating them the way you treat them.
Mercy.
You may have to start doing some things that you've never done before,
Or that you don't really want to do.
or that you don't really want to do.
Yeah.
Or that you were not taught how to do.
Mhm.
You may have to go to counseling.
Mhm.
You may have to get some coaching.
Mhm.
You may have to go sit and talk to somebody's pastor. You may have to give your life back over to God. You may have to go through this forgiveness process with Dr. Branner.
Mhm.
So if you got to make a decision. And I urge you to make that decision today. Stop playing around. Stop complaining about the stuff that's not happening in your relationship, because some of it is probably your fault.
Okay.
So make a decision.
You can't tell them. You don't know if it's probably their fault.
I said that's why I said probably. If I said it is your fault, then that's not something I could say.
Okay.
Let me clean it up. This is why I keep her next to me. Let me clean it up. You have a part to play in the success of your relationship.
Yeah.
And you need to make a decision today as to whether you want to play that part effectively or you don't. That's it.
That's it.
That's it. Listen, man, that was a phenomenal episode. Go back and watch it as many times as you need to. Listen, I don't have nothing else to say. It was a great episode. It was a great episode.
Yeah.
This is the kind of stuff that you can expect when you come with us on Thursdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now, if you want to really get some conversation that's not really advice driven, but it's just great conversation about stuff we don't normally talk about, then you need to hang with us on Saturday nights at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Have a Conversation after dark. Make sure
Mhm.
that you're there. Wherever you're watching this now is the same place you can watch that as well. The last thing we'll share is, since we're literally about to go into a mastermind for this cohort, is the 6-week Make Love Better, a 6-week group coaching experience. We are doing a closed cohort right now. This is literally week 1. After this closed cohort, we will be doing an open cohort. So look out for messages about that. We are talking about, and just I'll give you the 3 umbrella topics, but we're digging into them, is communicating on an extraordinary level, recognizing, managing, and recovering from conflict in record time, and creating a holistic, intimate bond. So if that is something that you are interested in, or you know somebody who is interested, shoot us a message. We will make sure that you are on the wait list for the next cohort. All right.
Amen.
Now,
Amen.
with that being said, we're going to get out of here because we need to take a breather so we can go work, have some fun with these couples that are coming up now. Listen, have a phenomenal rest of your Thursday evening. Have a great weekend. And just know this: forgiveness is possible.
It is possible.
Transformation is possible. Make a decision. All right. Listen, as mean as I sound, I love you.
Thank you for saying that.
I
'cause
really do.
I'm glad you said that.
And all you hear in my voice and the words that I say that may not always be the greatest word choice is this: I am passionate about seeing your relationship thrive.
Yeah.
I want to see you win. I take it very seriously.
Mhm.
So that's what you hear. I'm not angry with nobody. I ain't trying to be mean to nobody. I got all the love in the world, but I am going to tell you the truth because I want to see you win. All right. So with that in mind, have a phenomenal rest of your week and weekend, and we'll see you next week for another episode of Inside the Relationship.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Peace.